Good evening, Keeper League. This is your Commissioner, Joe Pizarro. We are about to start the finals of this season. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we recap the semifinals of last week. We had a battle of four teams. Two were going to go to the finals. And we also had a battle of four teams who were fighting to stay out of the toilet bowl. Let's see how it all shook out. So we go to the first matchup in the semifinals. We had the 7th floor crew Mikey versus Matt Baden, New Zealand's finest. This has been a rivalry. This has been a back and forth. This started on draft day. Who was going to get Travis Kelce? Who undercut someone from deals? Who cut him out? This was building. And they both came to a head in the semifinals. And this matchup lived up to all the hype that we could have ever asked for. And Baden came out throwing the first punch with a haymaker on Thursday. Puka and Chris Olave saved their best weeks for when it mattered most for Matt Baden, with Puka putting up 36 and Mikey 23. But Mikey picked himself up with a strong performance from Justin Fields, 26 points. Zamir White stepping in again for Josh Jacobs with 17.5. Cooper Kupp and Garrett Wilson didn't exactly help or hurt Mikey here. Cooper Kupp had 11, Garrett Wilson had 16. Landmine Gabe Davis at 26 on the bench, winking at Mikey after throwing him for a loop. And Mr. Pfizer, Travis Kelce, a long-standing 7th floor crew member, Mikey's soured on him. And Travis Kelce has soured on Mikey, and he let him down with only 9 points. But we go to the last game. This is Monday night. Mikey is up by 13 points with CMC versus Lamar Jackson and George Kittle. Personally, I looked at this as CMC and Lamar were going to balance each other out. And it was, can George Kittle get more than 13? And this was a back and forth. Kittle had a fantastic game with 22 points. Lamar was driving. CMC was driving. Mikey was up. He was down. It was going back and forth until Lamar got the touchdown. And we have our final. 141 to 135. Matt Baden takes over Mikey and moves on to the finals. In the second semifinal matchup, we have myself, Kim Jo-eun, versus the Ogle football team. Well, one thing I can say here, one guy came to play, and the other didn't. Ogle held up his end of the bargain and had a fantastic week. Building on his first week of 175 points, he put up 160. Breece Hall, first-round pick, someone who Mikey didn't keep. Scored 43. Josh Allen, newly acquired at the deadline, 26. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 29. Rashid White, 29. Newly acquired Evan Ingram, 18. It was just a massacre and a production from everywhere for Evan Ogle this week. And for myself, the run came to an end. There were injuries, and Jalen Hurts and Tyreek did play, put up 24 and 19. They were fine, but I could not put up a competitive score this week. Michael Pittman was out with the concussion. TJ Hawkinson knocked out mid-game. Cortland Sutton knocked out in the first quarter. DeAndre Hopkins dealing with Ryan Tannehill throwing him the ball. And dreadful performances from Alvin Kamara and Tony Pollard. But here's the thing. None of it probably would have mattered even if I was healthy with the week that Evan Ogle put up. Evan Ogle left no doubt in this semifinals. He earned his right in the finals, and he beat me by about, he more than doubled my score. Evan Ogle, double fisting, celebrating, and getting back to the finals, some place that he hasn't been in a while, and a place that has always evaded him. And it's going to be Evan Ogle versus Matt Baden in the TPR Sports 2023 Keeper Final this week. We have our two consolation matchups. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Pylon Pillagers versus Bloodbath McGrath, a.k.a. the team with all the hearts. The heart did not come through this week for Jimmy Football. Brett easily handled him 118.32 to 89.02, and Brett has secured himself a top 2 pick next year. And we move on to the last matchup, a matchup of controversy. Dwayne Bowes, Tom Phone versus the Arlington Astrophysicists. This was actually a very good matchup. But Dwayne Bowes was not playing for his own pick. He was playing for Varun. Was he supposed to play for Varun? Was he going to bench his players? There was a lot of chatter from Varun's camp about how Tom should handle his team. Tom was back and forth, dealing with a lot of stress, dealing with a lot of things. But in the end, Tom beat Travis. Varun gets a top 2 pick next year via Tom Phone. Travis plays Bloodbath McGrath Jimmy football next week to see who gets the 3rd pick overall in the draft. We will revisit the Tom Phone Varun battle later on, but these are the consolation matchups. Congrats to Brett and congrats to Tom, aka Varun. Best of luck, Travis and Jimmy football next week on who's going to get the top 3 pick. Moving on to the Toilet Bowl semifinals, we have Merry Christmas, John Finnerty versus Varun, CD's Nuts. And this was a close one. There's a lot of storylines going into this matchup. First off, let's talk about John Finnerty. He is probably the one person in this entire league that fears the Toilet Bowl more than death itself. And then we have another man, Varun Malhotra, CD's Nuts owner. He was in the playoffs, had a chance to compete for thousands of dollars, lost. Had a chance to compete in the consolation bracket to get a top 3 pick, lost. And now he is facing John Finnerty to see who will go to the Toilet Bowl. It could be Varun. It could be John Finnerty. Let's see how this played out. Varun, you came to play. The Dak stack showed up solid, 46 points between Dak and CD, 19 points from Kyron Williams, the guy you traded for, keeper, actually looks pretty good. 16 points from Atlanta's defense, and you had a shot. Going into the final game of this matchup, you had Isaiah Pacheco to go for the win for you. But John wasn't going down without a fight. Calvin Ridley, somebody who John acquired from myself, maybe didn't help him throughout the most of the season, but he came up and saved his best game for John this week with 26. Kyler Murray, 22. And a man back from the dead, Khalil Herbert, put up 22 in a must-win matchup for John Finnerty. And he was up by 12. Going into the Chiefs game, where Varun had Isaiah Pacheco, and all Varun needed was 12 points to beat John Finnerty. And he was on his way, and the gods did not fall in Varun's favor. Pacheco got hurt. And with that, he was out of the game with Varun down by less than a point. And Varun loses to John Finnerty and goes to the Toilet Bowl final. What a fall from grace for Varun, and what a triumphant win for our man, John Finnerty, greatest player. The final matchup of the Toilet Bowl Constellation semifinals faced Buzz and Brandon. Now, I said John Finnerty feared the Toilet Bowl more than death itself. However, Buzz is probably a close second. We call him Buzlan Krolatanko this year because he definitely sold off his players, realized he couldn't win, but put himself in really good shape for next year. But all he needed to do was win one game to avoid the Toilet Bowl in 2 weeks. He lost the first, and he faces Brandon this week. And he had to avoid the Toilet Bowl because, honestly, I'm not even sure if we would have ever seen Buzz again. And his team put up 90. Not a great score. Saquon, his Penn State alum, number 1 pick, gave him 19. Aaron Jones, 17. Very solid. But Brandon was down 33 points going into Monday night. He had his captain, Devontae Adams, been on the team forever, was his namesake in previous years prior to this year, and Brock Purdy, MVP candidate. They needed 33 combined to beat Buzz. Brandon, I'm sure you felt pretty good going into this. But what happened? Devontae Adams, 1.4. Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions, 2.4. What a choke job by Brandon, and what a victory for our man Buzlan. Buzlan Krolatanko avoids the Toilet Bowl, and Brandon makes a back-to-back appearance and will go against Varun and CD's Nuts. What a victory by our man Buzz, and what an epic failure by Brennan Marlin Tambury. I'm not one to throw out too many predictions. I haven't done too much this year, but this is the finals. We got Matt Baden versus Evan Ogle. 2 teams. Evan, been here from the start. Matt Baden, this is your 3rd season, and you made it to the finals. You put together a fantastic squad, and so did you, Ogle. You went for it this year. You didn't cheap out. You went all in. And your team is doing fantastic. So the question is, who do I think is going to win? It's hard to say. Both teams are playing well. There is one team playing a little bit better. I cannot discount Ogle's 175 and 160 performances when it mattered most. He does have a curse on him. He sucks in the finals. Choke job is what Ogle does. And Matt hasn't been here. Hasn't been to the playoffs. He's going to the finals. Hard to say. I'm going to go 163.69 to 157.98 in favor of Evan Ogle. This prediction means absolutely nothing, but I figured I'd throw it out there. And the toilet bowl. Varun versus Brandon. This one's going to be easy for me to predict. I think Varun wins in a landslide. They both are going to get punished in some way, but I think one's going to get punished more than the other. And Brandon, as you lie in that bed and you stare at the ceiling, stare at the stars, wonder, how did this happen again? You only got yourself to ask. You only got yourself to blame, Brandon. I'm predicting 117.52 to 81.32 in favor of Varun. And Brandon will become a back-to-back toilet bowl loser, something that has only been done by one person in this league, Zeev. We're going to make it a set after this week. Best of luck to everyone still in play. Good luck to the consolation bracket. And let's go. Let's have a great week and a great week of competition. And we'll be back next week to see how it all shakes out.